and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us online, welcome. If you're new, please check out our website for more information and to sign up to receive the weekly email. That's where you get all the best information. Okay. For those of you visiting us for the first time in person, on the seat back in front of you, you will find a visitor information card. If you didn't get to fill one of those out before you came in, they're gone. Somebody hold one up for me? The white cards. And you can fill that out and make sure it gets returned, and we'll get you on our email list as well. Later in our service, we will have a time for joys and concerns. At that time, you'll be invited to come forward and drop a stone symbolizing your joy or concern into our bowl of water. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, there's a yellow card in the seat back in front of you. Thank you, Enoch. There's a place to indicate whether you want your joy shared or to be confidential. If you want to be confidential, it will not be read out loud. If you share on Facebook, unfortunately, there is no way to make those confidential. So there you go. You are also welcome to drop a stone, even if you have nothing on a card to write. Some things are just for ourselves to know. If you have a need for hearing assistance, our AV Tech David can help you with that. Children are always welcome in our service and everywhere here at UU, but sometimes they like to have conversations that may be a little bit too involved for the congregation itself. If so, you're welcome to take your children out into the foyer, or there's childcare downstairs. Likewise, our adults, if you feel the need to have a conversation that is immediate, you are welcome to step out into the foyer as well and continue your conversation. We do have coffee hour afterwards for that, where you can share with everybody. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service, and I hope you get as much out of this as I think I will. Jean?
If you've been around campus in this area this past week, there's a lot of activity happening, and I think we may have some young folks joining us here who may be new students. If so, we welcome you especially and invite you to think about making this your church home. We're a very unique congregation, I think, in Fayetteville. Hopefully a light. You've joined us on a special day. It's a day where we're going to rededicate our peace pole, which is outside. At the end of the service, we're going to process out, more instructions on that later, and rededicate the peace pole and unveil. We've changed out some of the languages on there, and so you got to stay tuned for that to see what the new languages are. But it's a time to talk about recommitting ourselves to peace among ourselves, within our nation, in our world. You may have heard there are two movies right now that are extremely popular in theaters. Barbie. Yes, I saw some of you at the theater. You're going to see Barbie. And actually, our own Brooke Eldridge is going to talk about Barbie in a sermon 2 weeks from today. Come back for that. And about... I haven't seen the movie yet, but I understand it has some deep messages besides being lighthearted. The other movie is Oppenheimer. And I went last Sunday to see that movie. Last Sunday was August the 6th. August the 6th, 2023 was the 78th anniversary of the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 78 years. Some of you may remember that event. I don't, but I've read about it, and I know that the vast majority of Americans, according to Gallup poll, over 90%, expressed positive feelings at the dropping of the atomic bomb. Not that so many had been killed, although some, that might have been part of it, but mainly because it did bring about, or let's just say it was followed by the end of the war, the end of World War II. Now, over the years since then, there's been a lot of reevaluation, and many people have wondered and questioned whether the United States should have developed such a weapon, and especially whether we should have dropped it, not just on Hiroshima, but also on Nagasaki, and later developed even more potent bombs, far more potent than those. Unitarian Universalists do not all agree on issues of peace and war. That's an understatement. I don't think we all agree on anything, pretty much, except maybe our principles. Some Unitarian Universalists are committed pacifists who oppose war in any and all circumstances. Others among us see that there is sometimes a justification for war, although within Unitarian Universalists there'd be a wide spectrum of which wars are justified and what methods of war making, what types of weapons, what types of aid our country should be involved in around the world. The Chalice team has asked one of our own, David Edwards, to speak on issues of peace and war, particularly the war currently raging in Ukraine. By the way, this is the Ukrainian flag here, and some other flags, some of which I already owned, some of which I ordered, representing the countries around the world. But David Edwards, we know David and Caroline as just wonderful people who've been members here over 20 years, maybe closer to 25 years, who've been involved in so many aspects of this congregation, done so many wonderful things. You may not know, David Edwards also, besides being a gentleman, is a scholar, professor emeritus, taught many years at the University of Arkansas, specializing in Russian history. And so it is a true privilege that he is going to speak to us. I think when I asked him, I didn't realize really the gravity of the subject, the difficulty, the complexity of talking about what's happening in Ukraine. I don't think any war is a black and white issue, right? There are so many grays, so many complications. And so I appreciate that he's willing to do that. A wise person once said that a UU sermon is never the last word on any subject. It is rather the opening word, or maybe the continuation of a conversation. So in that spirit, I hope we will be charitable to each other and listen carefully and have our minds open as well to perhaps changing our minds. May we have the humility to listen and to learn from one another as we attempt to find the best way forward in a world that is very complicated and very divided. May we always be guided by a commitment to love and to our first principle, to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I invite you to join with me in the words of our chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together. Our first hymn is number 159. The words are here on the screen, but we invite you to stand and sing as you are able and willing.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace when lands afar
Our Time for All Ages story today is this book, The Peace Tree from Hiroshima. It's a true story, other than the fact the children's book is from the viewpoint of the tree speaking, that part. But the facts in this are something that actually happened. The author, Sandra Moore, illustrations by Kazumi Wilds. I was born nearly 400 years ago on the island of Miyajima. As I pushed up through the dirt, I saw my reflection in the mountain lake. A forest of tall trees surrounded me, cedar, green willow, and hinoki. Makakis, momongas, and bats darted between their leaves and limbs. One morning, as the summer sun beat down, I saw a man, alone with a basket strapped to his back. He spoke to the beautiful trees. Later, I would learn his name, Itaro. I must bring back a souvenir of this island, of the trees that touched my heart, said Itaro. Then he did something that changed my life forever. He carefully dug around my roots, gently picked up my small pine branches, and wrapped me in a cloth, wet from a nearby stream. Soon I was his companion on the mountain trail, leaving the forest behind. Itaro's house seemed strangely quiet at first. I missed the gentle rain on my branches and the monkeys squawking high in the leaf canopy. But I grew to like my new home and the ceramic pot in which I was planted. For over 50 years, Itaro watered me and pruned my branches, shaping me like a sculptor into a miniature bonsai tree. You remind me of the magical island I visited, said Itaro, his hair now white with age. That's why I called you Miyajima. When Itaro died, his son Wajiro looked after me. And when Wajiro needed a cane to help him walk, he taught his son, Somigoro, how to care for me. For 300 years, the job of watching over me was passed down from father to son. When our family moved to Hiroshima, it was Masuro who looked after me. He added more bonsai to our household. Beech, black pine, and blue juniper trees joined me on the porch. In 1945, something terrible happened. A war raged in Asia, and Hiroshima was hit by an atomic bomb. It exploded 2 miles from my house. Many, many people were hurt or killed, and most buildings were reduced to rubble. Our family was fortunate. Though our windows were shattered, we were injured only a little by the flying glass. Masuro dropped to his knees and bowed, a sign of gratitude. I too felt like bowing as my friend was unharmed. For several years, everyone in Hiroshima suffered terribly, but slowly, Masuro returned to his daily bonsai care, watering and pruning, wiring and shaping. And as we revived, his heavy heart became lighter. And slowly the people began to rebuild. In 10 years, our city had new streets, sidewalks, and spirit. Just miles from our porch, the Peace Memorial Park opened its gates. 20 years later, the classrooms were once again teeming with children, and the fields were full of cosmos flowers. Then, 30 years after the war, my life took the most surprising turn of all. A brilliant yellow sun rose over Hiroshima one morning as Masuro joined our tree family on the porch. America is having a special celebration for its 200th birthday. The Japanese people will send a collection of bonsai trees as a gift. I have thought long and hard about how I could part with any of my beloved Koromotachi, my children. He closed his eyes and took in a long, slow breath. Miyajima, you have seen the sadness created by war between Japan and America. You have felt the hope that helped us to rebuild. You are stronger than ever and patient and wise. I hope you will understand if I ask you, my favorite white pine, to become a tree of peace. When the truck arrived to take me to the airport in Tokyo, Masuro's grandson, Akira, shouted, "I'll miss you, Miyajima," as he waved goodbye. A few days later, I arrived in America. At the National Arboretum in Washington, I joined a new bonsai family. I heard the tour guide say, "This tree survived the war between our country and Japan and is now called the Peace Tree." I felt very proud. The next year, our Arboretum had a special visitor. He arrived from the airport in a long black limousine. As he surveyed the bonsai collection, my heart stopped. It was Masuro. He looked old and frail. He was holding the hand of a young Japanese boy I recognized. It was his grandson, Akira. "Akira is in America for the first time to visit you, Miyajima," he said. "It's important for us to see that you are well cared for. You are a special tree, a sign of peace between our country and the United States." "You look happy here, Miyajima," said Akira, reaching out to touch the bark on my trunk. "Next spring," he said, "we will come again."
As a community of people that care about each other, we share our various joys and concerns. We invite you to share your ups and downs as you desire. You can come to the front and drop a stone for any joy or concern shared or confidential or held in your heart. As you drop your stone, may you experience the spreading of love and support. If you filled out a card, you can bring it to me at this time, and please indicate whether it is to be shared or kept confidential. If you need to stay where you are, just raise your card and someone will bring it for you. If you're attending virtually, you may write your joys and concerns in the comments at this time. And now you are welcome to come. Will you drop stones for me, please, Jean? now we will drop a stone for the joys and concerns not spoken. We drop a stone for the joys and concerns that we will experience this coming week. And now let us have a moment of silence as we hold these joys, concerns in our hearts. Thank you. Each week, we receive an offering for the support of this congregation, and often for the support of others who are working for a better world. To be honest, we need the support for the day-to-day necessary running of this fellowship. But there is another truth here that says some of us need to make an offering, not only because the fellowship needs our support, but because we need to remind ourselves of our own generosity and capacity for it. Because the act of giving something away is a tangible way to acknowledge the gifts that we've been given. And if we don't have enough for ourselves, we may feel poor in material wealth, and we don't have enough to share, and we are truly poor in spirit. But none of us should leave this place feeling poor in spirit. Even a penny is an offering and a remembrance that we all have gifts to give. Now let us take up our offering in the spirit of generosity and love.
Good morning. I want to thank Gene and the Chalice Committee for inviting me to speak to you this morning. It's really an honor, and it's really nice to be among friends. I want to also thank Gene for his kind words. And also, I might add, finally, that Gene's opening words are just a prelude, I think, to what I'm going to be talking about. I think we're looking at things in pretty much the same way, despite the fact that we're Unitarians. I also want to say, before I get started, I want to acknowledge Dick Bennett, who is with us this morning. I have known Dick for over 50 years, and there is no one that I know of that has done more for the cause of peace in Northwest Arkansas than Dick Bennett. He's a longtime member of this congregation. He is a founder of Omni, which is a very important organization for peace, ecology, and justice in our area. And he's also the principal reason why we have a peace pole on our property. It's so wonderful to have Dick here today. I might add on a personal note, when Caroline and I, the first time we came to the fellowship almost 25 years ago, we'd come down for memorial services and events of one kind and another. But this was the first time we came for a service, and Dick met us at the door. He invited us in, and back in those days, visitors were usually introduced by other members of the congregation. First come people and visitors, and Dick introduced us to the congregation. I want to appreciate you for that, Dick. It was really welcoming of you. Today's topic is war and peace. I'm going to be talking more about war than I am about peace. Nonetheless, I hope that you leave this room with a heightened purpose to do a little bit more for the cause of peace. I also hope that, and this is, I think, equally important, I hope that you will come to understand some of the more profound causes of the war in Ukraine. Many of the causes we do not hear about in our media. We are fully aware of why Ukraine is in the war. We fully are aware of why the United States is participating with its assistance in the war, but we hear very little about why Russia is in the war. I think of an appropriate place to start if we're going to talk about war and peace in a Unitarian Universalist fellowship is to ask the question, what is the position of the Unitarian Universalist Association on war and peace? The 7 principles, of course, provide us with a general guideline, but as Gene mentioned, the 6th principle in particular clearly states the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Now, this is what the UUA says. This is an exalted goal, but how do we get there? What is our reaction to a specific conflict, a war such as is raging in Ukraine? What the UUA does, by not saying much more than that, is to enable us, in fact, to ask us to come up with our own interpretation, our own evaluation of what's going on, not only in Ukraine, not only in Europe, but in all of the other areas of the world, non-European, oftentimes non-white areas where there are wars raging. We don't hear much about that at all. But we are being called upon to respond to war. We are not just simply following what our association tells us to do. Now, despite this reticence on the part of UUA, the UUA does have two positions concerning war. One is support for those who take a pacifist position and refuse to take up arms. Two is an advocacy for peace, but an acceptance of the possibility of a just war. Now, I think that we can understand easily support for pacifists. What exactly, though, is a just war? The idea of a just war is centuries old. It's been tossed around, talked about for centuries. And it's very elastic in terms of what exactly it is. But there are certain conditions that are usually associated with the idea of a just war. These, everyone in here might have their own idea of what a just war is. But generally speaking, there are about 5 of these, and this is flexible, reasons for a just war. One is that it must be for a just cause, not for gaining territory or power or wealth. 2, the war must be led and controlled by a legal entity, such as a state or a leader, a ruler. 3, the war is fought to bring about a peaceful situation which would be superior to what existed antebellum. 4, all other means of solving the issues should have been used first. And finally, there must be a reasonable chance of success. Now, these are all aspects of a just war. Now, while the UUA accepts the idea of a just war, it is the theory of a just war is rejected by 2 positions. One is a strict pacifist position, and Gene mentioned that, which holds that there never was nor will there ever be justifiable reasons for war. The second rejection of the idea of a just war is on the other extreme, where national interest alone is required for a war to be justifiable. So, as you can see, the idea of a just war is sort of in between. Now, whatever you have as a position on just war or on pacifism or on national interest, what I'd like for us to do is to take a few minutes and look at the Russian reasons for the invasion of Ukraine. Do they depart from the idea of a just war, or do they conform to the idea of a just war? In this exercise, we will try to better understand the reasons why Russia launched its special military operation. Not war, but special military operation. So here are briefly, and we're only scratching the surface on these. Several reasons or justifications for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. First, a defensive war. Russia has long and clear memories of invasions from the West. Russia sees the possibility of that recurring. It views NATO and the expansion of NATO eastward, particularly into the Ukraine, as opposite of their national interests, and perhaps, when you take it to an extreme, and the Russians can, the very existence of their country. So this war is fought from the Russian point of view because diplomacy has failed. The Russians have talked to the West. The West has ignored them. Not only has Ukraine, NATO expanded, but Ukraine has also asked for acceptance into Ukraine. And further on this defensive position, some in Russia would look upon this as a preventive war. Now, this sounds pretty absurd, doesn't it? But preventive war, which is a war aimed at an opponent who will only grow stronger with time. And so when you have an opportunity or when you feel that it's necessary, a preventive war is begun. Russia's not the only country that has taken that position. Second, an ethnic or national war. Over 40%, around 40% of the population of Luhansk and Donetsk, those two regions in the eastern part of Ukraine, are Russian. They're Russian-speaking. Many of them look toward Russia as their homeland. And according to them and according to the Russians, this population has been discriminated against by the Russians, or worse. And Russia, like other countries, will defend its own, will protect its own, and it feels an obligation to these people. A third reason, a war against secession. This might sound somewhat familiar to us. Many Russians, particularly in the leadership, do not accept the fact or the argument that Ukraine is a separate country or that Ukrainians are a separate people, that they are all part of the same country. For example, historians have looked upon, have recognized 10th century Kiev as the first recognizable Russian state. And many people in Russia look upon the Ukrainians as their brothers. We're all in one family. So they look upon the breakaway of Ukraine as an illegal secession from the motherland. So the Russians are moving against Ukraine, not only to prevent the secession of a rich agricultural and industrial area, but also they're invading Ukraine to unite the family. Fourth, this is the war of revenge. Revenge refers to the French position in 1914, in which they believed that it was just for them to go into war in 1914 to regain Alsace and Lorraine, which had been taken away from them in 1870. Russia, in many respects, feels the same way about the lands of the former Soviet Union. Russia believes, in many cases, that these lands should be returned to Russia, particularly those lands in which there is a large minority of Russians living there. This would include Ukraine and other areas. And Ukraine is not the first, and it's not the only one, the only area that Russia would say this is part of our heritage. Finally, fifth, this is, on the part of many people in Russia, a cultural and religious war. This might sound kind of strange, but it is a cultural and religious war for many people. Russia is fighting to protect its way of life against Western culture, the liberal, corrupting, corrosive Western culture. The Russian Orthodox Church and the Russian state act as one in this endeavor. And this is especially true with sexual and gender issues. The Russian Orthodox Church has come out very, very strongly, and the Russian state supports this position that this is a Western issue, and Ukraine is bringing it eastward into Russia. Ukraine is led by a Jewish president, and ironically, the Russians also point to him and his government as allowing the emergence or re-emergence of Nazism in Ukraine, neo-Nazism or outright Nazism. And this is seen in the government, and you might recall the famous or infamous Azov battalion that fought so valiantly against the Russians. And this is an expression of an extreme right-wing group within the Russian military. So in this respect, Russia is fighting for its soul, and many would say that way, put it that way. So, what do we have? Is this a war of aggression, pure and simple? Is this a war to acquire territory and wealth and power? Is this a war to promote Russian national interests? Or is this a war to defend Russia from invasion, to prevent Russians abroad from persecution, to protect the Russian way of life, its soul? In the view of Russians, is this a just war? Now, a just war, and pointed this out earlier, is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. I'm neither an apologist nor an advocate for Russia. In fact, I'm a severe critic of Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. I'm not asking us, you and me, to agree with any of the causes that Russia puts forward to justify its invasion of Ukraine. What I am asking you, however, is to accept the reality of Russia. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean resignation. It means accepting the situation. And accepting the situation is the first step to understanding. It could be argued that real change does not come about through violence. Real change comes about through understanding. I'm asking you, us, to understand Russia. And believe me, that is a hard, hard job. A month ago, Professor Doug Kruger gave a talk from this podium, and he talked about optimism and pessimism, and he looked at the problems that existed with both of those ways of looking at things. And he suggested that there is an alternative, possible alternative, which he termed active realism. You might remember that, some of you were here. We were encouraged to work for a desirable outcome while understanding that there is no guarantee that that outcome would be realized. Our goal, as the sixth principle states, once again, a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Perhaps this goal, in reality, is unachievable, but it is a goal worth working toward. Peace in Ukraine is achievable. Even peace with Russia is attainable. And one of the ways to work for this outcome is to understand Russia and its motivations. I'm asking you to take advantage of the opportunity that our association, the Unitarian Universalist Association, has given us to hammer out and express our own opinions on the war in Ukraine, as well as all the other conflicts around the world. But it is our responsibility as Unitarian Universalists and citizens to work to understand the underlying causes of the war, not only in Europe, but elsewhere, and to try to rectify them. After all, our goal is not a just war. Our goal is a just peace. May it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now we will sing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land. Please rise in body and spirit as you're able.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh,
please join me in these words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Melly?
Okay, so we have announcements. There are some here. There are some in your order of service. And as usual, there's many, many more things in the email. The religious exploration programs are still on break, so you probably noticed that this morning. But we'll start back on September 10th. Meditation group still meets. So today we have the Web of Life monthly meeting here in the sanctuary at 12:30. If you're on the Chalice team, like me, we have a meeting Wednesday at 6:30. If you're interested in being on the Chalice team, you can talk to me or Jean or anybody else you know who's on it. And every Thursday is our much needed UUFF grounds work day. We absolutely appreciate those who faithfully come and diligently do work on the grounds. If you'd like to meet people here, doing work together is an amazing way to do so. And it's from 9 to 11 because it's hot. At the end of the service, we will do processing out to rededicate the peace pole. And there will also be coffee hour as usual. If you have any questions about anything in the service, or if you're new here, find somebody to talk to. It'll be great.
All right. Thank you, Melly, and thank you, David. You made me think, and I'm mad, because I thought I had everything figured out. And but you know, it's tempting with the when you hear such a complicated issue. I mean, it's kind of tempting just to say, oh, I can't understand it. I'm just going to watch America's Got Talent. And but, you know, we have to engage with the world. And we're not going to understand everything, but as best we can to do the right things. Thank you, Brenda, for the beautiful music. And Ollie, first time leading us as our song leader. Fantastic job. Ollie, thank you. And Ollie's going to help us in just a minute. We're going to start singing. We tried to pick a song that everybody knew, Peace Like a River. Simple. We'll see how long we can keep it going. But here's the idea of what's about to happen next. First of all, I would like 6 people to help me with the flags. We have 6 flags. I did not intend that. I'm sorry. 6 flags over UU. Total coincidence. The Ukrainian flag. I knew one of the flags, the tape would not hold the whole service, and it happened to be Ukraine. Anybody know that flag over the piano? Brazil, where I was born. Thank you. That is not the United Federation of Planets. It's the United Nations. Of course, the flag of the United States and Mexico and Canada. So could I get volunteers, maybe some of the young people or young at heart, to claim flags? There's just a little piece of tape holding it there. All right. Mexico? Who will take Ukraine? All right. And then hopefully the others will be claimed as we go. Basically, we're gonna as we sing this song, we're gonna process out with the flags. We're gonna go out these doors and around. The peace pole is right out here if you've never seen it before. And the pole has plaques which say in different languages, "May peace prevail on earth." And there's one in English and one in Spanish that are staying. There are 2 new ones. Now you see these plaques up here on the metal beam there. These are some of the others that we own. But I'll tell you what, the 2 new ones out there, we've got it covered up right now. We're going to unveil it. The 2 new ones that we're putting up. And basically, it's just going to take a couple minutes. We're going to say a prayer for peace. Dick Bennett is not speaking. It said that on the announcements. Don't panic, Dick. And he told me he was not speaking, but he's going to join us. And we love you, Dick. So proud that you associate with us, and so glad for your work for peace over the years. And Dick puts out a regular newsletter and has various anthologies of writings on peace. And so you can email him, that's in the announcements, to get a copy of that or to get put on his list. So we encourage that. All right, let's do this. Flags, songs, process, prayer. Step one, let's stand. So you're going to have to learn these lines real quick. Peace like a river, joy like a fountain, love like an ocean. And so were you, so we had to add some new ones. Pain like an arrow, tears like raindrops, strength like a mountain. Can y'all remember that? All right, Melly's going to help, Ollie's going to help. Grab the flags, let's go.